Ariat is well known for their comfortable and durable work boots. So today we're going to cut apart one of their more comfortable and popular work boots, the Endeavor. So the brand is obviously Ariat. The style is the Endeavor waterproof carbon toe. They've also got a steel toe and one without any protective toe. The color I have is the mushroom taupe, and they weigh just over 2 pounds. They retail for $169 and they're made in Vietnam. Now let's go over the information we can gather about these boots, starting with the leather. So this is a nubuck leather, which is basically a full grain or top grain leather. They basically just buff the top of it to give it that slight suede look. And nubuck and suede look really, really similar to the untrained eye. And one of the easiest ways to tell nubuck from suede is look for the little teeny pores. And if you look really close and you see some pores, more often than not, it's a nubuck leather. The lining of this boot is a fabric liner, and I usually like no liner or a leather liner over fabric because it just is more durable. But fabric is more breathable, so if you get really hot, a little bit more comfortable for your feet. The construction of this boot is a direct molded and cemented construction, which basically means as the midsole, the foam of this midsole is still somewhat malleable, the upper of the boot is pressed on and glued. As for the insert or the insole, it's kind of a memory foam insole and it is replaceable. So if you like a particular one or you need more arch support, you can always pull it out. The midsole, I believe, is an EVA foam midsole, so you're gonna get that really soft, squishy feel. The outsole is a rubber outsole and it's oil and slip resistant, which is really nice for the work site. And it's a surprisingly hard outsole. It feels about as hard as a Vibram outsole, versus, you know, some of the other boots like Keen, they have a really, really soft rubber outsole. So this is probably gonna last a pretty long time. Another thing worth mentioning is these eyelets and the speed hooks. They look really cool. They're not just a generic mass-produced eyelet, they're an Ariat specific designed eyelet, and they just look cool. And I like that the speed hooks go pretty far down the boot because I've got little bird ankles, and when I try to lace a boot that has just 2 speed hooks, I can never get it on. And the tongue is gusseted pretty far up. So not only are these boots waterproof, but the gusset goes up pretty high, which is good to see because half the time I've torn apart a waterproof boot, it's only waterproof up to where the gusset stops, which is only a few inches up. But this one goes all the way up to the 2nd speed hook. And the fabric they use on this boot is kind of deceptive because it just looks like a work boot, but as you look closer at the details, it's a really cool looking boot. You know, even down to the fabric they use on the tongue, it's kind of a pretty fabric. It kind of looks like it's interwoven. It's a good looking work boot. You know, it's definitely a work boot, and it definitely looks like a work boot, but the smaller details on this boot are really cool. Another thing I noticed right before I filmed was this hard rubber piece at the heel. And if you've ever worked construction, you know how much you end up using your heel throughout the day. And a lot of times on people's work boots, this whole heel area is really beat up, but they've got a little bit of hard plastic reinforcement around the heel to at least help with the longevity of these boots so that you don't wear them out prematurely. And then obviously it's got the carbon toe. I went with the carbon toe because I don't really think I've torn one apart on this channel yet. So I wanted to kind of show you guys what that was about. But the nice thing about carbon toes is they're a little bit lighter than a steel toe, because steel toes, at the end of the day, you feel like you're just dragging your toes around all day. But carbon toe gives you a little bit lighter, but still offers that around the same amount of protection. And this boot is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum from the $500 work boots that are handmade. They're all leather, they last several years. This is the other side of the spectrum where it's a sub $200 boot that's not gonna last longer than 1.5 years or a year, especially if you're using it, but it's cheaper, it's easier to break in. And so there's an argument to be made for people that like this style of boot for their work boot. You know, it's a fabric liner versus no liner. It's a foam midsole versus leather. It's comfort versus durability. It's lightweight versus longevity. $169 versus $500+. So there definitely is an argument to be made for these as work boots because not everyone can afford a $500 pair of handmade work boots, and not everybody wants a pair of those. And I really focus on those handmade $500 work boots because I love them so much, but I wanted to do a couple videos of just some more affordable work boots, cut them in half to show you what's inside of them so you can judge for yourself if they're the work boots for you. So now let's cut these in half. Okay, we got it cut in half. I'm actually surprised that the carbon toe cut so easily, but let's see what's inside. Just when I thought Ariat's boot technology couldn't get any more innovative or different or unique or even strange, we open this boot up and look at that shank. That is the strangest shank I've ever seen. Like, we did that one boot of theirs before where it kind of cupped into the heel, but this one is super thick right where it needs to be, and then it kind of tapers off and goes all the way through the length of the boot. And then the tread itself has some cavities in it, so it's gonna be a little bit more comfortable, and then the actual midsole itself is super soft. And then above that, you've got this, the fiberboard, and then some reinforcement above that. And I also didn't really anticipate how thick carbon toes are. It's like 5.5 millimeters thick, versus steel toe is really quite thin. So that really surprised me. We can see now how that little heel protection wraps underneath, which is good to see. Thickness of the leather is about 2.25 millimeters thick, so not as thin as I thought, but still not quite as thick as a heavy duty leather work boot. Pros and cons. Pros, comfortable boot, comfortable midsole, very little break-in period. It's waterproof, pretty thick tread that also has little cavities in it to make it a little bit more comfortable. Personally, I think I'd rather have those cavities filled in because this midsole is gonna do a lot of, gonna give you a lot of the comfort. Cons, that was kind of a con. Cons of this boot, it looks like a work boot. You know, it's definitely the $200 and under work boot style. It's surprisingly heavy at 2 pounds. I thought it'd be a little bit lighter with the carbon toe. I always try to stay away from fabric for a lining material because it's always the first thing that wears out. It's not resolable because it's that direct molded construction. Like, technically you could find a cobbler that would cut this off and Goodyear welt it, but it would cost you way more than what this boot's worth. So they're kind of a one-use boot. Once you wear through any particular aspect of this boot, it's done. But it's only $169. So there's pros and cons associated with it that could sway you one way or the other depending on what you're looking for. So overall, what do I think of this boot? First of all, I think it's weird, and I think it's really cool. I like that Ariat is always pushing the envelope when it comes to technology and designs and different styles of boots. I think a lot of people will be happy with this boot. I think that if you're looking for an affordable boot that is a little bit more breathable, but you might sacrifice a little bit of the longevity for breathability and comfort, it's a pretty good option. So huge thanks to Ariat for sponsoring this video. And these sponsored videos by these brands allows us to do some of the more fun videos and continue to grow the channel, try different styles of videos, all because of Ariat and these other companies go out on a limb and let me cut their stuff apart on YouTube and scrutinize it. So thank them by checking them out via the link in my description, and thank you guys for always watching these videos and subscribing and liking and commenting and everything else you guys do. Thank you guys so much. See ya.